At exactly 0317 hours in March 6, 2026, in the ink-black throat of the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important 32-mile-wide choke point went from cold tension to instant catastrophe. The VLCC Fortune Star, a 330,000-ton Saudi supertanker carrying 2.1 million barrels of crude oil, was 11 nautical miles from the Omani coastline when the ocean around her erupted. Simultaneously, the radar operator aboard the USS Carney, DDG-64, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer assigned as primary escort, screamed a single word across the Combat Information Center: vampire. It was not one contact, it was not two. The SPY-6 phased array radar was tracking 47 inbound signatures, accelerating at Mach 0.85, hugging the surface at an altitude of just 4 meters above the churning Gulf swells. Iran had activated its endgame. The Strait of Hormuz was no longer a shipping lane. It had just become the most lethal ambush corridor on the planet. What would happen over the next 18 minutes would determine whether 20% of the world's oil supply and the first U.S. Navy convoy escort operation since 1987 would survive or be incinerated in the most televised military disaster of the 21st century. The Islamic Republic of Iran had spent exactly 6 days preparing this trap, while the world watched missile salvos light up Tehran's sky. They wanted the world to believe they were losing. They were not. To understand why 47 missiles were now screaming toward an American destroyer and a Saudi supertanker, you must understand the calculated psychology behind Iran's maritime doctrine in the week following the February 28 U.S.-Israeli airstrikes that killed Supreme Leader Khamenei and decapitated the IRGC command structure. While Iran's surviving military leadership launched wave after wave of Shahed-136 drones and Fatah-2 ballistic missiles toward Tehran and U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, killing 6 American soldiers and forcing a temporary closure of Al Udeid Air Base, the IRGC Navy, operating on a pre-approved autonomous protocol, quietly repositioned its most lethal maritime assets. 3 Ghadir-class midget submarines, virtually undetectable at their 200-ton displacement, slipped out of Bandar Abbas Naval Base under radio silence and dove to 45 meters beneath the thermocline, where they would be acoustically invisible to surface sonar. Simultaneously, IRGC speedboat flotillas, 48 Boghammar fast attack craft armed with C-704 anti-ship missiles and unguided rockets, dispersed in small cells along the Iranian coastline, camouflaged among civilian fishing dhows. And the crown jewel, a network of HY-2 Silkworm shore batteries and mobile Noor missile launchers, repositioned and camouflaged along the jagged ridgeline of Qeshm Island. Iran's IRGC Navy commander, operating from a reinforced bunker 90 meters underground, waited. His trap was set. His patience was rewarded the moment the USS Carney transmitted its convoy broadcast on Channel 16, announcing the convoy corridor. Iran's electronic intelligence assets intercepted it in 0.4 seconds. The hunt was on. Do you believe the U.S. Navy can break through a 47-missile saturation strike with a single destroyer? Comment 1 below, because what happens next is either the greatest display of naval engineering in history or the death of American credibility in the Gulf. At 0317 hours and 40 seconds, USS Carney's Aegis Baseline 9.2 combat system had already processed the threat geometry and begun firing solutions faster than any human being could perceive. The Mk-41 vertical launch system erupted in a cascade of SM-2 Block 3C missiles, their rocket exhaust painting the black sky white. The CIWS phalanx systems on both the Carney and the Fortune Star's modified commercial defense package spun to maximum RPM, their 20mm M61A1 barrels preparing to vomit 4,500 rounds per minute at anything that survived the outer engagement envelope. At the same time, the electronic warfare coordinator aboard the Carney activated the AN/SLQ-32/6 shipboard electronic warfare system at full jamming power, flooding the Noor missile's active radar seekers with wideband deception signals designed to pull them off their designated aim points. The first engagement ring was working. 17 Noor missiles vanished from the tactical display, spoofed into the sea. 9 more were intercepted by SM-2s, their wreckage raining in orange fireballs across the Strait. The outer ring had neutralized 26 of the 47 inbound contacts. 21 were still flying. Simultaneously, and this is where Iran's doctrine proved its terrifying sophistication, the 48 Boghammar fast attack boats that had been drifting silently in darkened fishing dhow formation began their run. They lit their engines simultaneously. 48 high-speed contacts, each making 55 knots, materialized on the radar screen at ranges between 800 and 2,400 meters off the Carney's port bow. Iran had timed it perfectly. Forced the Aegis combat system to split its engagement resources between air and surface threats in the same 18-second window. The tactical picture went red. All of it. Every display in the CIC was red.
At 0319 and 12 seconds, USS Carney's captain made the decision that would either save or doom the convoy. He ordered a hard turn to starboard at flank speed, 32 knots, placing the Fortune Star behind the destroyer's hull as a physical shield, while simultaneously transmitting a flash priority message to 5th Fleet. Boxed, request immediate air support. Vampire count, 21 air, 48 surface. 90 miles away, aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72, 2 FA-18F Super Hornets from VFA-213 were already airborne on combat air patrol. They received the coordinates in 0.8 seconds via Link 16. Both pilots pushed their throttles to afterburner. At the same moment, a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, USS Montana, SSN 794, operating at 280 meters beneath the convoy route, received the flash traffic via extremely low-frequency transmission and began its own autonomous response. Montana had been tracking the 3 Ghadir submarines for 11 hours. She had firing solutions on all 3. What she was about to do next had never been attempted in combat. Her captain ordered the launch of 3 Mk-54 Mod 2 lightweight torpedoes, 1 per target, simultaneously using an expanded ADCAP guidance protocol that allowed independent terminal homing on separate contacts from a single fire control solution. The ocean floor of the Strait of Hormuz lit up with 3 simultaneous detonations at 0319 and 44 seconds. All 3 Ghadir submarines were destroyed before their torpedo tubes could open. Iran had lost its underwater killing arm in under 30 seconds. But the 21 Noor missiles were still flying. The inner engagement layer, the last line of defense, was now being tested in conditions its designers had prayed would never happen. 12 of the 21 surviving Noor missiles were engaged by Carney's remaining SM-2 inventory. 9 were destroyed. 3 broke through. The CIWS phalanx on the Carney's starboard quarter engaged the first and second inbounds at 412 meters, shredding them into aluminum confetti that rained across the flight deck. The third anti-ship missile struck the Fortune Star amidships at 0320 and 11 seconds. The explosion tore a 6-meter gash in the supertanker's hull above the waterline. The tanker did not sink, but fuel oil began pouring into the Strait from the rupture. The Fortune Star was damaged but alive. 2 crew members were dead. Simultaneously, the 48 Boghammar fast attack craft closed to within 600 meters. The FA-18F Super Hornets from Lincoln arrived at 0320 and 19 seconds. What followed was not a dogfight. It was a surgical execution. Using their APG-79 AESA radars in ground mapping mode and AGM-65F Maverick infrared-guided missiles, the Super Hornets began systematically eliminating the Boghammar cells at the rate of 2 boats per pass. In 4 minutes, 31 of the 48 fast attack craft were burning on the surface of the Strait. The survivors disengaged and ran for Iranian territorial waters. But the engagement was not over. At 0322 hours, 5th Fleet Signals Intelligence Network intercepted an encrypted IRGC Navy transmission, ordering a second wave activation. 24 additional Noor missiles from the Keshem Island shore batteries. Impact time, 11 minutes. The Carney had 4 SM-2 missiles remaining in her VLS cells. It was not enough.
At 0323 a.m., the order that changed the calculus came from 5th Fleet Commander. SEAL Team 8 executes Option Kestrel. 2 MH-60R Seahawks that had been holding at ultra-low altitude, 8 meters above sea level, 3.2 nautical miles north of the convoy route, immediately turned south. Aboard each helicopter, 8 SEALs were locked and loaded. Option Kestrel was not a frontal assault. IRGC electronic intelligence had identified the source of the second-wave missile targeting data as a converted Iranian fishing trawler, the Piruz, operating under electronic emission silence 4.1 miles off Keshem Island, acting as the forward fire control node for the Noor shore batteries. Without the Piruz relaying real-time targeting coordinates from its roof-mounted AN/APX equivalent transponder system, the shore battery missiles would be blind. The 16 SEALs had 9 minutes to board the vessel, neutralize its crew of 12 IRGC Navy specialists, and physically destroy the targeting transmission array before the second wave launched. The 2 MH-60Rs came in at wave-top level, using the thermal signature of the burning Boghammar wreckage to mask their infrared profile from Kashm's coastal radar. At 0327 and 40 seconds, they flared up and held hover 10 meters above the Piruz aft deck. The first SEAL was on the deck before the IRGC crew could reach their weapons. Close quarters battle lasted 3 minutes and 14 seconds in the vessel's cramped below-decks passageways, illuminated only by weapon-mounted lights and the green wash of night vision. At 0330 and 54 seconds, the SEAL team's demolition specialist attached M112C4 charges to the base of the targeting transmission mast and detonated. The Piruz's communication suite ceased to exist. 8 seconds later, the 24 Noor missiles on Keshem Island launched as programmed, but without terminal targeting data. They flew ballistic arcs into the empty sea. Not one came within 4 miles of the convoy.
At 0332 a.m., the Strait of Hormuz fell silent for the first time in 15 minutes. The USS Carney was still afloat. The Fortune Star was damaged but mobile, her crew fighting to control the flooding with emergency patch systems. The 3 Ghadir submarines were wreckage on the seabed. 31 Boghammar fast attack craft were burning. The SEAL team was withdrawing from the Piruz by extraction line, all 16 operators accounted for. Iran's most sophisticated naval ambush, years in the planning, activated in the chaos of a regional war, had failed. The Strait of Hormuz remained open. But at 0335 a.m., a new flash priority message arrived at Fifth Fleet from the National Security Agency. Satellite SIGINT had just confirmed the activation of a second IRGC autonomous protocol, a network of 7 additional Noor missile batteries, not on Qashm Island, but on Larak Island, 38 nautical miles deeper into the strait. The Carney had 4 SM-2 missiles left. The Fortune Star was taking on water. The next convoy window was in 6 hours. Iran had not fired its last shot. It had barely begun. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a shipping lane, it is the jugular vein of the global economy. And tonight, it is bleeding. The US has held the line for now. But the question every admiral in Fifth Fleet is asking in the gray dawn of March 6th is the same question being asked in every capital on Earth. How many more nights can we hold it? What do you think? Can the U.S. Navy sustain convoy operations through the Strait against a fully committed Iran IRGC Navy defense? And if the Larak Island batteries fire their full salvo, does the Fortune Star survive? Drop your tactical assessment in the comments. If this breakdown exposed what's really happening in the Gulf right now, hit the like button and subscribe, because the next classified file covers the USS Montana's full engagement record against those 3 Ghadir submarines and what the wreckage revealed about Iranian submarine technology that no defense analyst has reported yet. The strait is still open for now.